You mentioned about the book of Flickstein and McAdam, and also there is the new book of Institutional Logics, Ocasio-Lansbury. And in both of two books, I noticed that they are talking about we are different from institutional theory. We are departing there, and we are not from them. Quotation marks. What do you think about that?
Well, you know, I shouldn't say anything because I wrote a blurb on the institutional logic book, so so there's an official word on this. On the institutional logic book, I don't buy that at all. I think that I think that they are not at all questioning institutional theory, not in any fundamental way. I think I'm much more interested by the attempt by Flickstein and McAdam in that sense, in that direction. But in a sense, I would also argue that they are not really questioning institutional theory. They are questioning neo-institutional theory of the 80s North American kind. That's what they're questioning. But in fact, what they're doing is completely Weberian, I would argue. So if you reread Weber, you know, then you see that that book really makes a lot of sense. So in that sense, they are not going against institutional theory in the way I define institutional theory. That's also why, you know, to explain a bit what I was saying at the beginning, I think I am an institutionalist. Okay, what do I mean by that? I know I am an institutionalist, but I am an institutionalist that doesn't belong to a school in a sense. I'm an institutionalist by complete conviction. I'm a Weberian. I'll say it that way, actually. I'm a Weberian. So, and for me, that's being an institutionalist in the deep sense of the term. So I think that Flickstein and McAdam are doing institutional theory in the profound sense of the term, but they are definitely very different from the turn of the 80s neo-institutional theory. The institutional logic case, I think they're very much within the institutional theory of the neo-institutional theory turn. Still, you know, they're proposing obviously something complementary to that, but they're still very much in that line. So I don't buy the fact that, you know, they're claiming not to be institutionalist in that sense.
Marie-Laure, of course, I applaud your still persisting concern with the divide between North America and Europe. I applaud that because it seems that the number of people who are doing that is getting less all the time. You might have read the new editorial of Organization Studies, Sapere Aude, or you might have read the Baum piece from the other side. And there is this broad discourse that this distinction is diminishing. So, being left as few who are still taking that seriously, I applaud that. But then a couple of comments, questions, and especially the bit about what might come out from other parts of the world. I, of course, would want to share your optimism. But in terms of the institutional basis, if you like, of the kind of hegemony that's at play here, I don't think much is going to happen. Partly because of the mimetism that you're talking about, but even more than that, the Americans, for example, are running their conferences in South America. And you yourself, even you said you would be looking at Africa. And of course, indigenous ideas within such a context are... I've seen the same kind of optimism in Marx's writings, for example. He's expecting something coming out of China, India, etc. But when you look at it empirically, what the Chinese and the Indians are doing is basically doing exactly the same thing as the Americans are doing. Not even the Europeans, by the way.
No, exactly. No. So. No, I mean, yeah, you know, I agree on that. I think, you know, I don't know whether I'm optimistic, but I was just saying what I would like to happen. So I'm not sure that I am optimistic because of all those pressures, which are essentially institutional pressures in many ways. So if you do look indeed at, and I spent a bit of time in Singapore because we have a campus there. So if you look at Asian, the production of Asian scholars in Asian institutions, it is really much more American than American in a sense. It's completely replicating. There's really a strong mimetic isomorphism here. Obviously, with the obvious objective of getting into the journals, of getting published, cited, etc., which we all are looking for. So you can understand that very well. So there are, on the other hand, people working with indigenous schools of thought, but they're not, in general, publishing in our top management journals. They're doing other things, but I've met some that are doing very interesting work. So whether or not there can be some infusing of new ideas through that process is still to be seen. I wouldn't want that to happen, because otherwise I think institutional theory is dead. I really have said that already 2 years ago in the New Institutionalist workshop, and a lot of my friends were very pissed with me. But I think that otherwise it's dead in the bourgeois sense I described before, in the sense of being stuck into the dullness of a routine type of work that is not generating any kind of new insight, and where you have PhD students breaking their heads about what is the little gap that I can fill, and not finding that little gap, because if you look at it from that perspective, more or less everything has been done from all angles. So you really need to break out of the box, and that's it's not easy. So yes, maybe there is the influx of some of those young rebels, the social movement theory, the critical theorists, etc. We can survive with a bit of their blood for a few more years, but then really, I think then it's time to move to something else. At least for me.